All right, Len, how are you this morning?
Hanging in there, hanging in there.
So I got a haircut. I kind of am regretting it a little bit, but we'll see how we'll see how it grows back in.
Would you tell your barber just to go to town on this or something? I mean,
Well,
you're not going to need another haircut until basically July.
normally people cut their hair short in the summer when it's hot. I got kind of fall. I got was like a false winter. So I
You
was
got a
like,
little
oh,
aggressive. You got a little
yeah,
aggressive.
a little aggressive. But now, I wanted to see how it would look, but we'll next time probably won't be this aggressive. But anyway, it is opening day. For those of you that have watched these videos before, we've talked a lot about the Cubs. Today is the opening day for the Sox, which you are a Sox fan. So for those baseball fans,
I will not be there.
it's a lot of traffic, But for those baseball fans watching, happy opening day. All right, let's jump into it, Len. As always, appreciate your time. And, as I was looking on the schedule and thinking like, hey, what are some of the topics that, you got a ton of industry knowledge and experience. But then it dawned on me, and it's, we never did a proper intro, like who you are, your background and all that. And, how you came to be this, what I would call a pretty big deal on the real estate attorney scene.
Right.
But let's do this today. So I'm going to turn it over to you. Would love just an intro, however you want to, frame up your experience and your background, and then maybe I'll ask a few questions, and we'll set this up so people that are watching get to know you a little better.
All right. So at this time, I choose to exercise my right to the Fifth Amendment. So
isn't that only in a criminal case?
Yeah, I know. Well, people just use that haphazardly anyway. Fifth Amendment. You hear it all the time.
Did that go how you think it was going to go?
No, yeah, right. Good call on that. Great reference to The Other Guys, a fantastic movie. So as most people start, just kind of upbringing, I was born and raised in Cicero, Illinois. It is a town right outside the city of Chicago. Lived there pretty much my entire life. I still live there. As far as education, I attended Fenwick High School, which was in Oak Park. My undergrad was at DePaul University. My first master's degree was actually at the University of Illinois at Chicago. That was master's in public administration. Law school was at UIC Law, formerly John Marshall Law, and my second master's degree was at the University of Illinois. So that's the education. Take that. Great. We have that. But as far as who I am, it comes down to a few key things. I enjoy video games, I enjoy Legos, and I enjoy Star Wars. That pretty much sums it up kind of in a nutshell. Kind of a nerd. And because remember when we were growing up, kind of being young, it's like they would make fun of nerds. Remember the movie Revenge of the Nerds? Nerds were always kind of made fun of.
Which, by the way, I don't think could be made today.
No. I'm not even talking about that. But remember how like nerds? What was the movie? With Urkel, with Steve, Family Matters,
the TV show.
Family Matters. Because remember how they would always the archetype of the nerd, kind of the overly intelligent, kind of dorky person. But now look at the world. Nerds run the world. I mean, as we see, some of the largest companies are tech companies.
Well, the stereotype has thankfully evolved to
right.
And, well, the Legos and all those three things I can identify with. I don't think the video games as much, but certainly the Star Wars and the Legos. So, all right. So we got a bit about your background, education background,
and my interests,
and your interests, which are few but mighty.
Right.
Let me ask you this. So we've talked a lot about you being a pretty big deal real estate attorney. You've been doing this for a long time. You mentioned you went to John Marshall, formerly John Marshall, now University of Illinois. How did you get into? Did you start off in real estate? If not,
no. So actually, right after law school, I never had the intent to really practice. It was kind of I just wanted the license to have and the degree to have, and then the license just to have it. I never really intended to practice. I was going to continue on my role in government and politics. I actually kind of fell into real estate. A acquaintance of mine who was a friend, he's a little bit older. What happened is he had lost his administrative assistant, not to death or anything. What happens is an incident happened. She needed to take care of her daughter. So he didn't really work on computers so I kind of just jumped in doing that, helping him out, and basically learned to practice pretty quickly. Then from that, when friends were selling homes or stuff like that, I would say, I'm actually, I do handle this type of law. I have familiarity with it. And from there, it just grew. From there, people would see me in closings, and I would get referrals either from my clients or from other realtors who are across the table from me who like the way I work. I take a very different, I'm not going to say nonchalant approach, but I'm kind of, real. And also one of the benefits I do have going for me is being a one-man shop. I'll never take on more cases than I could handle at any given time because I do deal directly with the clients. Not that there's anything wrong with dealing with a paralegal or an administrative assistant, but sometimes it's kind of good just to speak directly to the lawyer. It gives some people comfort in that they're talking directly with the lawyer. So that's kind of how it grew, and it grew relatively quickly.
Well, that's a great story.
And when you grow that quickly, you learn a lot quickly too.
Yeah. Well, it's
you see the gamut of everything pretty quickly.
Well, and to your point, I think, by being the person that's, as we would say, kind of like in the field or in the weeds or in the details, you learn like the sausage making of a process and a way of doing things isn't always fun, but that's generally how you really understand it, from a system.
Like an apprenticeship.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
Like an apprenticeship, essentially, which I think is sorely lacking in the legal profession. So I was very fortunate to have that opportunity to essentially just, like you said, be in the weeds and start learning it relatively quickly. Thrown in the fire, essentially.
Deep end of the pool, as they say.
Deep end of the pool.
A lot of analogies to this. Yeah. Well, that's great. That's great. And how long have you been a practicing attorney then?
So I've been an attorney since 2014, practicing the entire time, but truly real estate was probably about 7 to 8 years. Okay. Like initially you started doing some minor real estate here and there, but I would never call myself a real estate attorney at the time. I needed a lot of hand holding initially because it was kind of like you're not in the weeds, but you're kind of like learning a new area of law. But then as soon as I start working with the one attorney, learned and caught on pretty quickly.
Yeah, because you essentially had to learn how to run a real estate practice, but
I learned how to run a practice within about a month.
Yeah, and be an attorney. And I think, like, to your point earlier, to me, that's generally if you're working with an attorney at even a medium-sized firm, that person is really focused on being an attorney. And oftentimes where like client satisfaction comes in, and just, to your point, clients being comfortable, is being able to run that process individually. So like, I'm talking to you as the attorney, and to your point, it's not that a paralegal or administrative assistant is bad. It's just, talking to the attorney and having that visibility, having that, that one-on-one time. I imagine when you're making one of your largest purchases, if not the largest purchase, is a good feeling for people.
No, absolutely. I mean, people are nervous, whether you're selling or buying. People are naturally nervous in this entire process. They're not uninformed. It's not something they do every day. And unless they're experienced, they kind of need that hand holding, which is appropriate because they have questions. When they always say, "Oh, dumb question," I'm like, you know what? No question's really dumb. I'm like, you don't know this area. You could ask all the questions you want. That's the point of it. And a lot of times, they try to look online and grab stuff and hear stuff. That's why it's always important. Just ask me or ask the attorney. Figure out what's going on. We'll give you an answer. And like I've said it before, we don't give you the answers you want to hear. I'm sorry, we don't give you the answers you want to hear. We give you the answers you have to hear. So that's a very important, benchmark.
Now, one of the things that, I've seen just working with attorneys in real estate and in other aspects of life too, is that oftentimes there seems to be this, like you mentioned earlier, right? Like you don't do this maybe a couple times in your lifetime. But what I find that working with attorneys is they have an assumption that you have like this base domain knowledge. And then when you ask those questions, it's like, well, no, this, and there does seem to be that, I don't want to call it tension, but it almost seems like annoyance factor. And I'm just curious, like, have you, like, you mentioned that, there are no dumb questions and anything like that. What would you recommend to folks who are like, hey, you know what? I want to take a bit more control over this. And I do want to have like a baseline level of knowledge. Not everyone does, but how would you recommend them going about that?
So actually, one of the most annoying questions I do get though is, well, what do I do about my utilities? That does annoy me because it's almost like, well, what do you think you do about your utilities, about your gas and your electric? You obviously terminate your service the day of or the day after closing. But for people looking to kind of have a baseline knowledge, literally just Google selling my house or buying a house. There's literally so much information from government websites and from professional organization type websites that will populate basically on the first or second page of the Google search. And you could just kind of page through that to get kind of a quick baseline. If you spend an hour, hour and a half, you're going to learn kind of the ins and outs. I will caution you, don't sit there and read the real estate contract and say, well, this sentence means this. No, because sometimes in practice, the contract isn't strictly adhered to. Certain things are kind of loose, especially when people are kind of moving towards the same goal. But have kind of a baseline knowledge. Yeah, but don't read the real estate contract unless you really want to. It's 13 pages. It's not that big of a read. Half the stuff you're not going to know, half the stuff you're just going to misinterpret anyway.
That was a very well thought response.
I award you no points.
Not what I was looking for. I was hoping you were going to say something very pithy like, well, Carm, if you want to learn about these things, just subscribe to the Ask a Lawyer film video series.
Oh, God, no, don't ask me anything. I'm no.
No, I'm kidding.
Wait. You can press the button right here to like and subscribe.
I'm kidding. But in all seriousness, there is a lot of information out there. And of course, like everyone at this point knows how to do a Google search and find that information. I think the one thing that is helpful about video and really the goal of this bi-weekly series is to educate people in 15 to 20 minutes where it's like, hey, this is just real life. We've done this before. It's local to the community. So there might be some local nuance that's there. And it's meant to just, be topical and give people the resources and the knowledge they need to ask maybe more thoughtful questions or ask questions they may not have even we did a video series with, I think you had said like water issues and filing things. I don't even remember what it was, but like being proactive with the village and filing requesting.
Right. Your local village inspection, stuff like
local village inspection. Exactly.
Yeah, there's stuff like that. And then also I when I say go out and, just kind of do a Google search, don't make this become WebMD because, you have a cough and next thing you know, based on your self-diagnosis, you're going to die tomorrow because there is a lot of information out there. So don't overwhelm yourself either with the information that's available.
Yeah, I'm known to do the WebMD.
You're right.
Cough and all of a sudden
everyone's guilty of doing it.
I have 6 weeks to live.
Right.
All right. Well, cool. Well, Len, I know we try to keep these around 15 minutes and, for all those who are watching, hopefully, you got a little bit of a flavor of the Star Wars Lego video game nerd that Lenny is, but also the fact that, he's very hands-on, very client-oriented attorney. We work very closely with him at the ARG group. And, hopefully you find these videos insightful, entertaining, and helpful. And with that, Len, as always, I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. We'll see you on the next one.
All right. Take care, buddy. Bye.
All right. Have a good one.